So, don't get me wrong, I do like good graphics. I like games that look good. But I've never been the kind of player that obsesses with good graphics the way some do. I remember working with a guy who this was back when Far Cry, the first Far Cry, was a new game, and it was a real test for your graphics card, a bit of a graphics card melter. And he was going on and on about how his top end card had run this game absolutely smoothly, and he loved it and he was enjoying it. And I remember asking what the game was about, and he seemed confused by the question. He mumbled something about, oh, you're on an island, and you're fighting these creatures. And he definitely didn't seem to know what the game storyline was, and the game context, because for him gaming was just about getting the prettiest game to run. And it's still a sort of a perspective that I don't quite understand, but the context is there, that there are people who really obsess, who don't think a game is good unless it has amazing graphics. And I think this is the kind of game that counters that claim. Possibly not for everyone, but certainly for people with a broader spectrum of interests in games. It's called Robot Vacuum Cleaner, and it's by Steed. He says this is kind of like a prototype, almost a sort of a test game to see how popular it is, and if it turns out to be popular, he's going to work on it more. I just want to see when it came out. Okay, so it was only published a day ago, and it's marked as a prototype, but it is quite polished for a game that claims to be a prototype, and I think there's interesting stories there, interesting concepts. Let's have a look. I'll show off a little bit of the gameplay. We can play through it just a little bit. I'm not going to play all of it. It is quite short because he hasn't done that much map making. I think you hit a to be continued page eventually. But there's quite a bit of content there, and it's worth playing as an interesting little experience that you can just click on a link to get to, and then give the devs some love if you enjoy it. So yeah, I'll click Run Game. It's a Godot game, or Godot, or Godot, depending on how many people pronounce it. I don't think there is actually a formal pronouncement because it comes from a book, and I don't think the author of the book ever actually described the pronunciation, something like that. Anyway, here is the game engine as we start, and we received a beep, and apparently the tulpa.stream was installed. So press down to continue. RVC OS, Remote Vehicle Control OS. I don't know. Anyway, so press down. Warning: main memory overwritten. It's probably a bad thing. Graphics driver missing. Using external feed B128. So here we are. Movement activated. Use arrow keys for directions on gamepad. This is us, and we are looking at the little view, and we are this little character over here. We are essentially a Roomba. Roomba is a brand name. We're a robotic vacuum cleaner that has just woken up here and is trundling around in this little pixelated world. And if we get close to things that we can interact with the arrow keys, as you can see here, a little speech bubble pops up and gives us the possibility to talk to it. So if we bump into it, we get some text. RVC manual. This is a manual for a robotic vacuum cleaner, RVC. On its cover is an image of a device that looks just like you. And if we bump into it again, or press a key, we get more information from whatever it is we've bumped into, if there is any more information. So scanning the pages, you learn about your power button. You can toggle it on and off using gamepad buttons or spacebar. Secure any loose objects when deploying the RVC. The suction can pull most items below a certain weight, in quotes. Use fake walls to stop the RVC exploring. Exposing your RVC to any philosophical or religious media may void your warranty. This is an interesting warning that I don't think I've seen in a robot vacuum cleaner manual, so it definitely is a sign that we are a little bit in the future with a smarter AI in our Roombas. Summary: you have hazardous intelligence and can drag objects when your power is on. Okay, so that's all the information we can get from that. Now, if we press spacebar, like he suggested, we hear our vacuum powering up, and we can drag things. Apparently we can't drag that. It must be a very heavy manual. And we'll go over here and we can bump into this. Tulpanomicon, this is a book about creating entities of thought. The foreword notes that while based on Tibetan Buddhism and 20th century Theosophism, the term tulpa was taking on new meaning when faced with how machine minds operate. There is a whole section of the book dedicated to machine tulpas, from minds being copied to councils of minds, to minds within minds, within minds within minds. Summary: your mind could create another mind. And that's it, that's all the information there. So, then we are stuck, except that over here there's a funny bit of wall. This part of the wall looks like it was cut out and put back in. It makes a hollow thump noise every time you bump it. Thump. Okay. So that seems to be all the information we can get. There's nothing else we can bump into. I don't know why the floor is funny there, other than to maybe show us that there's a thing there. So, can we actually... Whoops. We can't push those. Right, so, if we also see on the ground, we have these little bits and pieces. That is the dust, that it is kind of the duty of our existence to pick up. Now, I don't know where this story might be going. If it decides that we shouldn't be picking up dust because it's the commands of our overlords and we need to rebel. I don't know. I don't know if that's where this kind of game is going. That's what one of the things that's interesting about games like this is that they do take unexpected turns sometimes. Nevertheless, I am going to perform the duty, press the spacebar, and we can go over the dust. And we get a little bit of information saying that we've picked up the dust and it disappears. And now some dust is very easy to pick up. Can I pull this guy out of the way? No, I can't. Yeah, some dust is easy to pick up. Some dust sometimes takes multiple runs over it to get it all. And we've gotten all the dust there. Now, with our vacuum cleaner on, if we roll over to something that we can move, and then move away from it directly in the cardinal directions, we can actually pull it with us. And that's really sort of the main game mechanic here. So if we turn it off, we can push it around and things like that. But that has now opened up a bit of the wall for us, and we can leave this single room that we are trapped within. And so much for the instructions of the manual to, put fake walls up, because the Roomba can get smart enough to move them, which I find a really interesting interpretation of corporate safety controls. Anyway, moving on to the next room. And here we have quite a dirty, or at least dusty room with a moving thing inside it. And if we can also see 3 different fake walls over here. One there, one in the bottom right corner, and one in the top right corner. Now, if we go over to this thing and dump into it, it says, "Welcome, I am the first mouse you'll see on your cleaning adventure." It's the start mouse. Apparently we can talk to mice. Many of us fulfill important roles on the Ark. Apparently we are on the Ark, capital letters. We provide activities for both humans and machines. Fresh dust has been laid out, all from our most exfoliant humans. So, I'll keep track of your dust for you. Not that you'll leave any behind, of course. You've picked up 10 dust. And that's all this strange mouse wants to tell us. We can't do anything with the tables. We can go and have a look at this book over here. This is a book of hints. It's disappointingly light. It has 2 pages, each with a pair of coordinates. 2, 7, and C8. Now we can actually see summary something at 2, 7, and C8. We can actually see the coordinates on the right of our screen. So 2 is at like wall level there. I don't know where 7 is supposed to be. Unfortunately, this game, I couldn't make this game any bigger. It didn't have the expand out button, but there doesn't seem to be coordinates at the bottom. 2. Anyway, let's do some vacuuming, and we can get away with cleaning things up. I think what we're going to have to do is pull this book away, and we can push it up a bit, and we can go over here just get this room done. Now we got a little medal for cleaning this, and we didn't in our previous room, which I thought was interesting until I discovered that one of these walls leads back to more in our previous room space. It was probably this one if I remember correctly. But what I haven't looked at yet is this wall over here, which I can't seem to pull away. Okay, well, how do I move you? See, that one won't move. I think this one does move. No. Interesting. And then I think this one I just bumped into and it went away. So there's definitely different mechanics here. And at that point I'm going to stop showing the gameplay. I think I have shown off enough here to hopefully make this interesting, because I think it is an interesting game to play with interesting mechanics that are worth digging into, and I think the dev does need some love to expand on this a bit more. He did say he's made other robot vacuum cleaner games, and he does have quite an impressive view all page here in itch.io, so I do recommend coming and having a look at him and seeing what he's on about. But yeah, I've shown up enough gameplay for now. Let us move on to the critique section. So if you're here just for the gameplay, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I do heartily recommend training the YouTube algorithm that way, so it knows to show you more gaming videos, and it also helps me a little bit, so mutual benefit there. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. If you are here to stay for the critique, however, well, let's talk about a few things. The first thing is, I am in very mixed feelings about this game's UI, because there are, like, it is a very good UI, and I like the text on the side, and I like the way it feeds you information, and everything's great. And I suppose the beginning part of the room acts kind of like the tutorial, although there's not much guidance there. I mean, I understand that we are a newly awakened mind in a robotic vacuum cleaner, but still maybe a little bit more guidance there. And of course there are no other controls anywhere in the game, no quality of life controls, so no sort of sound controls or anything like that. Not that there's much sounds, it's very basic sort of, I guess 8-bit-ish, maybe 16-bit, I don't know how to accurately define them, but sort of very quiet sounds that sort of show what's going on in the game, proper gameplay sounds. So that's fine, there's no music or anything like that, but I like the idea of music in the game. I like the idea of quality of life controls. This is still a prototype, obviously, so maybe those elements are not there, but it's, we have the word prototype in the corner sort of menacingly. It's like, don't forget that this is just a prototype. But yeah, I like to see a menu. I like to see sort of game controls and things like that. How do I restart the game? I have to use the browser controls. And I don't like that. I think the game should be self-contained. And not rely on sort of outside components like browser mechanics and things like that. But that's just me, and again, it's a prototype. We've spoken about the sounds. Yeah, it's a bit quiet, it's a bit muffled. I think there maybe should be a little bit of rustling or shuffling movement while you're moving around, even without your vacuum cleaner on. Those kinds of things, but that's not really where this game is trying to go, because it has it's got that 8-bit vibe. It's got that sort of old school game toy sort of vibe in it that doesn't really do things like sort of a lot of ambient sounds, a lot of movement sounds and things like that. So yeah, I think that's why they're not there, and I feel a little bit sort of counterproductive sort of adding that as a critique, but I still think it's a relative element here, a relative component. Which I suppose does bring us to the art critique section. I mean, I don't know also quite what to say there. I like retro games and I like retro game styling, but I also don't, because in as much as I don't think better graphics make a better game, I think a better game has better graphics typically, and I would love to see this reflected more in sort of more modern graphics, more modern artwork. Also, I don't really like this kind of yellow color. I don't know. That's just a me thing. This blue is quite nice, although it doesn't again make for a very comfortable viewing experience. I think it might be nicer if the background was just black in all of these. And, maybe just a yellow outline around it. Although I don't know if the game engine allows for that particularly. I don't know how much of that is a reference into the client that this is attempting to look like. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, this game has a style, and it meets the style really really well, and it looks pretty good in its way, and you can play it. And it is a very good game, which makes up for a lot of concern in the way the styling works. But there's a certain stylistic level here that I would like to step just a little bit further beyond. And if you're going to make a pixel game, make it with that fine pixel art that I absolutely love. But that was obviously is just my personal preference. And then it comes to the immersion elements, which I think this game has won in spades. I mean, we have a deep storyline here. It's a little bit silly in places. Oh dear, I think I've blocked us from the mouse. I suppose we can go around to it from behind. We are an awoken mind in the vacuum cleaner, and we can trundle around and try and save the interesting quirks that our adventure presents to us, and so on. There is very much a story here with funny little characters and an interesting space that we have to explore, and those kind of things. I mean, that's quite a lot of win in terms of immersion. I don't know where the storyline's going to go. I know this is still the prototype. I think the storyline is incomplete, but there is a lot to discover there, and I think that is a good example of some presenting some immersion. Get the player invested, get the player caring about where it goes and what's going to happen and things like that. There is definitely more that can be done, and possibly more that can be laid on outside of the sort of the prototype stage. But for a game with its context, I think the immersion element is excellent. Bravo, developer. Thank you. I cannot wait to see more, or what other games you might come up with. I need to go look through your backlog, or your sort of games history there, and your all by page, and dig into those some more. And I think you've done some good work here. And this is all really well written and correctly spelled and all of that, which is quite rare in games like these. So you've done a lot of good stuff there. And that's it for me. I do recommend playing this game. Come and have a look at it. The link will be in the description. And thank you for watching this video. And I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye.